Today, I want to talk about something that has been kind of a strange anomaly to me, and it's really how do you scale and enlarge your 4K footage on a 1080 timeline, specifically 1080 timelines that are geared towards social posts, so 4x5s and 9x16s. Internet, what's going on? Robert Teegarden back again with another Teegarden quick tip tutorial today. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man. What are you doing? I post content on filmmaking tips and the business of being a creative, so if that's something that you're into, go ahead and click that subscribe button, ring the bell for post notifications, and welcome to the community. We're really happy that you're here. I was coming across this really interesting thing where I would scale my footage down and then scale it up, right? I would use scale to frame to bring it down to the normal size and then scale it up to fit my frame on a 4x5 or a 9x16. And when I would export this thing, for some strange reason, even though it was 4K footage being exported in a 1080 resolution, it looked grainy and really just kind of poor quality. So I started experimenting around with this, and I wanted to share what I found with you guys, which I think would be helpful for you in your exports, making sure that your quality looks super clear. So let's take a look at what I got going on here inside Premiere. Now, usually what I would do, what you see right now is I've got a standard 24 frame a second timeline and your 1080 by 1350, which is the resolution you would get for a 4x5 export if you were exporting directly to social platforms, specifically on Instagram. Now, I could change this also to 1920 and get a 9x16, which would give you stuff for stories and or any vertical completely vertical posting that you would see in TikTok and Twitter and all the other social platforms here. So that's what my timeline looks like. Now, if we look at my footage, the properties here in the footage, what we would see is that I've got a 60 frame per second, 3840 by 2160, which is a 4K file. Now, usually what I would end up doing is right-clicking here and scaling to frame, which would bring this down. Let me just reset this here. It would bring this down here, and then I would just scale this frame up to fill the 4x5 that I'm using, and it would really just kind of hang out around this 223 to 225 and give me a nice little quality image. Now, if you notice here, there doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with the image quality that's going out, and especially you would stand to reason that a 4K file being upscaled on a 1080 timeline wouldn't have any issues. But as you can see in these examples here, you do have some strange kind of aliasing and some kind of weird digitizing of the footage that's going on the outside when I would scale it like that. So for what I do now that's been working a lot better for me is I started to just leave it the size that it is, and instead of scaling up, I would scale that footage down. And that seems to have solved my issue on vertical style timelines that I've been working on. For some reason, there's no issue if I'm working on a 1080 timeline that's 16:9 and I upscale my 4K footage that way. Seems to be totally fine. Actually, the export quality for that is much better than if I did the reverse. Or even when I'm using a 4K timeline and upscaling 1080 footage, that looks fine. But once I get into this vertical realm inside of Premiere, it starts to do that weird kind of aliasing and interlacing of the footage, and it looks just really strange. I'm not exactly sure why. So if anyone has any ideas in terms of what's going on, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below. And Adobe, if you're watching, which I know you are, please shed some light on this subject for all of us, and we'll, maybe we'll give you a little shout out in the comment section, because I know you guys need the exposure on the Teegarden channel. So back in Premiere, what I do now is instead of scaling to frame, I unclick that and I just take my footage and pull it down to about 66% seems to be the perfect frame size. I can then kind of move this side to side, obviously because I have the extra room on the sides here. And that tends to be the perfect range for our 4x5 timelines. Now, if I hop over here into a 9x16 timeline, if I'm shooting in a widescreen format, of course not if I'm shooting vertically. If I'm shooting vertically, I can scale down to about 66%, again, for these 9x16s, the super vertical ones that you would use in stories and TikTok and those sorts of things. But if I'm shooting in a regular 9x16 format, I can scale to about 90% before I start to get black bars on the top, as you'll see there. So 90% seems to be that sweet spot. Again, if I want to reframe on my left and my right, I can do so because I have all of that image there. But so that's what I get on a 9x16 format. On the 4x5 formats, the 66% is perfect. When I render those things out, when I take my scales and bring it down rather than scaling it up, everything seems to look fine on those vertical formats. So again, just to recap, and if you're crazy, I know someone's gonna put this timestamp in the comments. If you're using 4K footage on a vertical 1080 timeline, scale down 66% on a 4x5 and 90% on a 9x16, and you should be good on your exports. I'm exporting at about 30 bits per second. So my quality, my exports is not low at all. It's definitely not an export setting that I've got going on. It's something that's happening here in the timeline that Premiere is doing. I'm not really sure. Anyway, if you like this video, like the damn video. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell for post notifications so you can hear what's going on all of this goodness exactly when I upload these files. And it really does help the channel because velocity and all these different things. I'm sure you guys know that. With that in mind, this is Teegarden with another Teegarden quick tip tutorial in the can. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.